Okay, so I have personally not seen a whole lot of the West, meaning the Western US. So I thought that that moving out this way would just be a good way to kind of see some more of the West, um, and do some exploring. So Wyoming, it's my first day, but I have to say um, I was like a little, I don't know, surprised. I don't know. I just thought like the city would be like bigger and just a lot bigger for some reason. And like even more country than what it appeared to be. Um Now I did see a lot of like, shops selling like cowboy hats and shoe, boots and stuff like that, but I really expected like more of like a, I don't know, like more of like a saloon type of feel, kind of like you get in Nashville, like in Tennessee. Like I was just expecting I was just expecting a different feel, like a different vibe. And but I mean it's still like really quaint, like really nice for what it is. They saw like a lot of cowboy stuff everywhere, like history and Western history, and like stuff about like mining towns, and like um, the first settlers of like the West. So it was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, Wyoming is, I guess it is even more remote than like other um, places in the West. Like, so it's just I don't know. I guess it's like it's like considered like pretty isolated in general, like just Wyoming. But I mean, people have heard of it, but I don't know. Like, not many people really know about it as much as they know about Colorado. Because Colorado has become like the state that like a lot of people move to, a lot of people visit. International, it gets a lot of international visitors. A lot of people know about it because it's like the place to be for like skiing and all the snow sports, like the mountain sports and all that. Like and like basically has like the most views, or the most peaks, over, what is it, over 14,000 feet in the US. It has the most of those highest peaks, so that's why everybody knows about Colorado. But Wyoming, not so much. So I'm like doing some exploring here, just checking it out, seeing how it is. And yeah, it's pretty rad so far. So uh can't complain. But um I don't know, I guess like I said, the isolated feeling, definitely. um and the thing is, like, I spent most of my adult life on the East Coast, which is pretty densely populated. A lot of the East Coast is, well, depends where you are, but most of it, like, especially where I was at, like South Florida, New York City, obviously, it's like one of the most densely populated cities, not just in the US, but in the world. So, I mean, like, living there, and like being around all the people, like, for so long, like, it just, you get used to it. And I spent pretty much all my formative years in highly, in fast-paced East Coast cities, where a lot of people on the East Coast, and I mean, by East Coast, I mean everything from like Maine down to like North Carolina, and then the further south of North Carolina you go, I'm just talking like only like certain parts of Florida, like specifically South Florida, because that's pretty fast paced. A lot of Florida is pretty slow paced, but like South Florida has just like a lot of New Yorkers and like people from New Jersey, so that's why it's like pretty fast paced. People are really impatient there, and everybody drives fast, everybody walks fast, everybody talks fast. compared to like the rest of the country. So I find, because I live there like most of my adult life, basically like um all your 20s, like if you live someplace, like that pretty much is your personality, right? Like that shapes you. Like, and the thing is, like, so that becomes what your values are. And so I kind of like know, like, I want to like end up back east soon, because I just find that like in basically the rest of the country does not take too well to East Coasters. They think of us as rude, right? They think of us as rude, the rest of the country, because of, like I said, how fast we talk. We're more straightforward when we talk. We're more blunt. We get to the point faster. We're just very straightforward, honest, speak our minds, don't have any filter. And it's not really like that in a lot of the rest of the country. It's pretty passive aggressive. Like even California, even big cities like LA, like the people are just different outside the East Coast. Like by East Coast, like I said, I'm talking about like the Northeast, okay? Boston, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, right? And also, like I said, not so much, and some parts of the Mid-Atlantic, like Philadelphia, Philly, is definitely pretty East Coast. I forgot to put Philly in there. The Mid-Atlantic is the East Coast too. So Maryland, Philly, all those places, it's very similar to like New York culture, like as in the lifestyle, the way people are culturally. So if you go outside those specific areas of the East Coast to the rest of the country, like I said, even if you go to the West Coast to California, people just, it's hard to vibe with the people, and because they just don't really like East Coasters. They, like I said, they see us as rude. They think we have an attitude, when we see them as the ones being rude, because a lot of people in most other states outside the East Coast are very, the communication is very passive aggressive. They don't communicate directly. They can't just tell you what they want, what they need. They're not as honest, or they don't communicate clearly, or like I said, they use a lot of like social pleasantries and niceties. Like they'll greet you and talks a lot of small talk, and like, how are you, even though they don't even know you, they'll ask you that. But you never really hear that or they'll be like, have a great day. And it's like, you don't hear those things on the East Coast, because people aren't going to be saying those things to someone they don't know. So the whole point is like, you're perceived as cold and rude and stuff in pretty much the rest of the country. So I know that basically that's my personality now, and it's not really going to change much, because I spent my formative years on the East Coast. So I know eventually I'm going to have to go back there, because I cannot adapt culturally. It is very difficult to adapt culturally to any other state. It feels like, because like I said, the communication, the culture, everything is so completely different from the East Coast. It really is. And I feel the most comfortable and at home on the East Coast. And the thing is, like, I was born in Iowa. Like, I was born in fucking Iowa, of all places, which is like it's considered like one of the like shittiest states like in the country, because there's like, the weather's awful. First of all, it gets to extreme temperatures. Like Nebraska is the same, and I went to school there. It's the same thing, like pretty much as Iowa. So it's like, it gets super cold. Like it gets down to like, it can get down to like -30, -40 in the winter, which if you go outside, you'll get frostbite within minutes. It gets extremely cold, like extreme cold temperatures, to where you will literally die if you're outside like longer than like 10 minutes. Like it's horrible. And in the summertime, it gets like above 100. Like it gets really extremely hot. And so it's like really extreme there, and it's hard to get used to. And it's very slow paced. There's not a lot to do. It's very isolated, kind of like I'm finding out other western states are, like Wyoming. It's very isolated. Not a lot of people. Kind of like in the middle of nowhere. Well, it is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, You know, Nebraska and Iowa are like definitely like it feels like in the middle of nowhere. So I basically grew up in Bumblefuck in Bumblefucksville. Um, and yeah, there really is not much to do at all there. Like nothing. There's like no mountains there. There's a few lakes, but they're like really small. There's no beaches. There's really just like nothing to do. And it's like a lot of it's flat. So yeah, most of the Midwest is extremely boring. There's nothing to do, and it's very isolated and very depressing to live there. There are people that live there, a lot of people obviously, but I think like deep down a lot of people really don't like living there. And it took me going back to my hometown as an adult and living there for a couple years to realize that holy shit, this is not for me. Like I absolutely hated pretty much every minute of living back there. Um, the plan was to stay there a lot shorter time, like not even a year. That was not in my plans to stay there as long as I did. I stayed there a couple years, but I wanted to leave sooner, but I think like just the pandemic happening and the East Coast got hit really hard, and I was in Miami when it hit, and it was very tough that on that city. It was, you really felt it if you lived in the cities on the East Coast because they got hit really hard, and New York did too. And I was like literally in New York City during the pandemic, like 2020. So that was like pretty scary. I mean, I saw a lot. Like it was just a really horrible time for those cities, and to be there. And so, I mean, going back, to the Midwest during that time, it was like almost like the pandemic did hit the cities there, but it didn't affect it as much because way less people, hardly any people living in those states, those cities, compared to the East Coast. So it felt like it didn't impact it as much, right? So I think that was part of my reasoning, and also, just saving some money. Obviously, it's less expensive to live there compared to like a lot of other places in the country. So yeah, it was that, but it was just overall like, it's not a good place to live. And I was like leaving every opportunity I got to go travel, because I didn't want to be there. So it's like, why would you like live somewhere and be somewhere that like you have to keep traveling and going places to escape from? Like that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, because you hate being there. So yeah, I realized that I was never gonna fit in there. Like I said, I pretty much became an East Coaster, and once you're an East Coaster, I just feel like it's hard to adapt back to the Midwest, and I could not do it. I lost my patience so many times with the people back there in my home state. It's just too slow. Like it's too slow for me, and the driving is slow. Everything is so slow, and I just have no patience for it. I don't, and I don't have a lot of patience for the ignorance too. There's a lot of ignorance in my home state. Just a lot of freaking ignorance, and a lot of people born in my home state, like they literally are born there, and some of them leave, but a lot of them don't, and they end up not even going to school, and a lot of them end up dropping out of school, and then they just end up like just living their whole lives there, right? Getting, married and having like a couple of kids by the time they're like not even like, 22, 23. They haven't even lived their life, and just staying there and then dying there. That's literally the life script for a lot of the people that I grew up with. And I told myself, I said, oh hell no, that's not going to be me. I had big dreams to travel the world, and I did. I had big dreams to live in other cities and live in New York City too, specifically, and I ended up doing that. So I accomplished that. So yeah, I mean, it really is my hometown in Nebraska, Iowa. Basically, it was on the border of the state, so it's basically the border of Iowa and Nebraska. Is basically where people's dreams go to die. Like, I felt the tension when I went back as an adult to live the last couple years. It was a very, very tough time for me being back there because I realized that I was never going to fit in there. I didn't fit in because of the life I'd lived up till then, and that I didn't want to be there. It was just too depressing, too isolated, too the people just too small-minded, too just so much just ignorance, like lack of education. Like I said, a lot of people didn't even end up finishing school. Just boring, nothing to do. Hardly a lot of people just drink because there's like nothing to do. And it's just like depressing as hell, right? Like it's just depressing. Being in a city like that, being, there. So I was like, this is not for me. I cannot end up staying here. Like, I gotta get out of here. Like, so it took being back there for a while to realize it was never gonna work, and that I was never meant to go back to my home state. I was never meant to go back there, but I did it anyway, and it was a mistake, and I regret it. So I have to live with that regret now. I have to live with that wasted time being back there because I knew nothing was going to come out of it deep down. I knew deep down that where I feel like I belong in my heart of hearts is the East Coast. I will end up back there. But for now, I'm going to just do some traveling while I'm living out west, and not the Midwest, west. It's different. It's completely different. It's not, I mean, there's some similarities, but the West is where like pretty much those are considered the mountain states. So it's different. It's not the Midwest. And the winters are a lot more mild in the West. So, because we have the mountains, we have other things. So I'm gonna just try it out, see how it goes. But like I said, ultimately I feel like deep down, definitely I'm gonna end up back there because, like I said, a lot of the rest of the country is just extremely passive aggressive, and I cannot stand that. I can't stand passive aggressiveness. I can't stand timidness. I can't stand people who are just, like I said, afraid to speak their mind, and I just don't have any patience for it, and I just don't fit in culturally with like the rest of the country. I even lost my patience in California, like LA, like it's even slow there. Like it's just the way of life and everything. The pace of life is so fast paced on a lot of the East Coast, and I like that. I really do. I don't like the toxic chill culture. I don't like that. I call it toxic chill. There's just not, people don't have a lot of ambition, a lot of drive, stuff like that. And I love that about the East Coast. So, or education, and especially places like Boston and all that. That's like one of my dream cities. New York was too. I just lived in the wrong neighborhood when I was there. It was not a good neighborhood, part of the city. But I also would be open to New York City again because obviously like New York, but it's just the neighborhoods that are like decent there. Like in New York City, it's just they're a little bit like out of reach for me. I mean, not out of reach, but I don't know. Maybe one day I'll go back there, but to live. But it's just like it's doable, but I don't know. There's trade-offs in any city. Like there's trade-offs in any place, but like I feel like if you really want to be like in the really good neighborhoods of New York City, it's just like insane. Like you'll pretty much spend like most of your paycheck on rent. Like if you want to live in like a decent neighborhood there. Whereas like I feel like there's more options in the rest of New England, like Massachusetts and Connecticut and places like that, where you can find like something that's like not too far still from New York City, because most of those states are like an hour, 2 hours by train to New York City. So I feel like I could find a decent place in some other place in New England. So I eventually want to definitely end up there because I just love it. Like what's not to love about New England? Like it's you can like you'll never get bored. you're like usually an hour or two only from New York City. So you can always go into New York. There you have a million places to go, like mountains. There's all kinds of mountains, beaches, to explore. It's easy to travel from to all these places, like in Europe, like from LaGuardia Airport or John F. Kennedy Airport. Um, there's just like a million things there. It's just like I feel like it's the best part of the country. I really do, to live. And it's also happens to be one of the most expensive parts of the country to live, but it's the best because I feel it is because, like I said, the people there are highly educated, especially in a place like Boston. Um, yeah, like I said, I'd love to live around Boston someday. Definitely. Um, I don't know. I love that part of the country. It has the best food in the country. I feel like it does. Just the most incredible food. You can find food from all over the world, obviously in New York, but um, on the East Coast, like you'll find like literally within the same street, on the same street, you'll find like an Ethiopian restaurant. Right next to that will be like an an Italian restaurant. Right next to that will be like an Iraqi restaurant, like all, next to each other. Like you don't find that pretty much in a lot of the rest of the country, like not even LA. Like it's just mind blowing. And you have to keep in mind too that a lot of the Northeast has really good public transportation. So most of the rest of the country does not. LA, it's not good. San Francisco, it's not good. A lot of the rest of the country it's car reliant. So in the Northeast, you can just catch a train anywhere. Like if you're bored in New Jersey, you can just catch a train to go to Philly. If you're bored in Philly, you can go to DC. If you're bored in DC, you can go to Maryland. If you're bored in Baltimore, you can take a train and go to Rhode Island. I don't know, somewhere. Like there's a million places to see there that are all so unique, and plus I love seafood. So yeah, the Northeast is where it's at when it comes to seafood. I think it beats even California and Oregon as far as seafood. So yeah, I mean, I just like am in love with that place. Like, so I want to like end up back there soon, and I feel like this is just a short stint to like kind of just explore and get to travel around the West, and then ultimately I'm not going to end up here. But it's just to kind of see what it's like. And so far, like I said, I need to spend some more time, but my vibe, like my people, and like ultimately where I fit in the best is definitely the Northeast. I feel the East Coast, definitely, hands down, because it just fits my personality. I don't know. I just love it there. I just love it. So, and I'm definitely pretty type A personality, so I feel like that really fits. It just fits. And like I said, people there are very quick-witted. They're very, they're funny. I don't know. They're sarcastic. It's just like, I just love that part of the country. I don't know. A lot of people are uh, just, just better people. I just love it. But the rest of the country doesn't seem to understand sarcasm, and it's just a little bit slower, and people aren't as quick-witted. There's a lot more passive aggression, like I said, and that's what I don't like about most other states. So yeah, like I said, outside of the states, specifically on the East Coast, you're not gonna really get that culture outside those places. So I really miss it. I want to go back very badly, and who knows, maybe it'll be sooner than later, but I hope so. But I did learn a lot. I don't want to say the journey was all bad, being back in my hometown, but it definitely showed me what I did not want in life. And it really, yeah, it was pretty eye-opening to be back there as an adult, because it's one thing to be there when you're a kid, you don't know any better. Everything looks good to you, right? But going back to your home place as an adult, and I hadn't been back in over 10 years, you guys, to my hometown. And being back there as an adult was just like, there's just nothing there for me. Like, you outgrow it. Like, you outgrow your hometown, obviously. You outgrow places. And And I just like, by that time, you know, you'll never feel at home there. And I know I was never gonna feel at home there. I was never gonna feel um vibe with people there, and I never did. I never ended up doing it. And I was back there for a couple of years. I was back there, and like I said, I hated every minute of it. I really did. I did not want to be there. And now that I'm out, I'm super happy that I'm the hell away from there. But ultimately, like I said, my destiny is basically to go back to the east, to go back east, to go to the East Coast, because like I said, I love the people there. I love the honesty. I love the genuineness of the people there. They're very honest with you. They're genuine. Like, if they don't like you, they will tell you. They will not waste your time, smiling to your face, acting nice when they really don't like you deep down. Like, they're just really more honest, genuine people, and I miss that so much about the East Coast, and I can't wait to go back because I just long for it. So I hope to go back. I really do. Sooner than later. But like I said, for now, I'm gonna make the most out of it. I'm gonna make the most out of being west and seeing how it goes. Just giving it a shot, giving it a try. But I know deep down, ultimately, this isn't it. This is not the place. But it's, like I said, it's okay. I'm gonna do some exploring, but is it my forever place? No. No, the East Coast, the Northeast all the way. I remember I went to visit last year during the fall, and I didn't get a chance to go to Salem. I've always wanted to go to Salem, Massachusetts, and I want to go where they had the Salem witch trials. I want to go there sometime. I have not visited a lot of the historic sites in the Northeast yet, like Salem. I hope to go sometime, maybe this year or next year. But I want to visit Salem, see what it's like. But I remember I went last year, and it was just gorgeous. It was not in Massachusetts, it was in Connecticut, but it was during the fall. And I remember walking around outside, and it was like out of that movie. I don't know if you guys know that, what was that Disney movie about Salem and the Salem witches? It was like a kids movie, and I don't normally like a lot of those kind of movies, but it was like, I believe it took place in Salem. I don't know, but anyway, it was just like gorgeous scenery, and just being back there in Connecticut and walking around, seeing all the color changes, which they do in the Northeast. They get the most vibrant fall colors out of like anywhere else in the country. So the color changes are out of this world in the fall time. The trees changing, like you get reds, you get like dark reds, maroons, bright orange, dark orange. You get all these different colors, and in most of the rest of the country, you don't get the vibrant, you know, foliage on the trees that you get there. And people come from all over the world to see the color changes in the Northeast, in New York, in Connecticut, and all those places. So when I was there last year, I just saw it, and it was just beautiful. Like, it's out of this world, and I just loved it so much. And I was just like, why can't I be here? You know, I just really wanted to be living there. And I just visited for a week, and then I went back to my shitty, you know, home state, and I was like, I just felt like, oh, I don't want to get on this plane. And it was just so like gorgeous. Like, it was just like, I was even like looking at apartments while I was there, because it was just like, just seeing all just the color changes, and I was near Yale University. I was staying near Yale. And you can imagine the kind of bright, you know, like smart people that obviously like live, you know, near Yale campus, near Yale University. But I was just walking around Yale campus, and it was just like, you know, it's just like, it's just gorgeous. Like, you just feel like such a yokel, you know, like coming from my, like, you know, where I grew up, and being somewhere like Yale, like campus, like, I don't know. But I just thought it was like gorgeous, like like I said, the scenery and the campus, Yale campus. It was like, and I got to stay right near there, and it was just like walking around, seeing all the color change. It was just like so nice. And I really wanted to go to Salem during the fall then and just like see it, but I didn't get a chance. During the fall, it was probably going to be like amazing to see during the fall, because I'm sure they had like all kinds of like pumpkin patches and um, apple cider, hot apple cider donuts, all this stuff. Like, you know, it's like the best time of year. I really love fall. Um, I used to really like spring, and I do too, but I really love the fall. And the Northeast has a longer fall and a longer spring than like the West or the Midwest. Like they have we have all four seasons here too, but the fall is really short and so is the spring. But in the Northeast it's like longer and it's just more distinct. So the Northeast really has those distinct four seasons, and I just love it. And um it's like, I don't know, I want to go back. I just belong there. And I don't know, I just get so nostalgic thinking about it. But I know life is pretty hard up there. It can be, and depending where you're at in the Northeast, just in terms of cost of living is outrageous there and all this. But you know what? Honestly, if you think about it, a lot of times, like it's so worth it. Like it's so worth it just to be in a place like that. I don't know. So I do, like I said, want to go back. Maybe I'm thinking like Massachusetts or Connecticut or something, and just being back there. Like, I mean, ultimately, where I feel like I belong, where I feel like I should be, you know. Um, so yeah, this East Coaster is going to make it back to the East Coast no matter what. So I'm going to make it back, hopefully. I am not sold. I am not sold on the West. Um, I've been all over the West Coast too, to California, Washington, not Arizona yet. I haven't been there, but I'm not sold on it. I just really don't like it. I don't know. Even LA, I don't, I'm not a fan of the West Coast. I am not. I'm a fan of the East. So, anyway, I just wanted to say that, but I wanted to talk about Wyoming and just how kind of like surprising it was, because I really thought where I grew up, you know, where I spent the first 18 years of my life, I thought that was like the most boring bumblefuck, you know, bumbledy fuck, isolated place in the country. But it turns out there's like a lot of extremely isolated places that aren't necessarily in the Midwest. So it was like pretty surprising. But yeah, I guess you can find these places anywhere really in the country. But I guess it's all comparing, right? Like comparisons. But yeah, I don't know why I thought like the Midwest, like Nebraska, Iowa was like the worst, but I guess not. But yeah, you know, and like I said, it's just there's like the isolation, right? The lack of culture in a lot of the Midwest. Most of the Midwest lacks culture. It lacks diversity. It lacks education. It lacks opportunities, education wise, career wise for people. It lacks. It's just a kind of depressing life, like I said, where there's a lot of ignorance. There's not good education. You know, a lot of people drop out and just, you know, get pregnant by the time they're like 17. That's like the norm there, or 20. They don't even go to school. They don't finish school. It's sad. Like, that's my hometown. It really is. And I like got out of there. It feels like it is literally the place where your dreams go to die. Your dreams go to die. And I was like, my dreams are not dying. My dreams are not dying. I'm going to live my dreams. And I did, and I escaped. And being back there was just a reminder of why I left the first time and why I needed to escape from there. So yeah, ultimately I wasn't going to let that place pull me back in. I stayed there for a couple of years, and I didn't let it suck me back into that depressing cycle of misery. And I got out again. I escaped again. So, yeah. Just sheer misery. But, you know, I've seen the other side too. Like, I've seen the other side of things. And so I don't know if you guys know, but I'm British too. So like half my family is in the UK, and I used to go back and forth there, which is amazing. I could even do that at the time from the Midwest to the UK. And it was hard too because, you know, when you live like in the middle of the country, like a big country like the US, it is hard because you have to fly from the middle of the country to the East Coast and connect to like what, 1, 2 flights just to get over to the UK. So I used to do that. And I worked there for a year too as an adult, and it's just, I've seen some depressing places in the UK too. I mean, there's places that are isolated and depressing and boring all over the world. Not just in the US, but uh, you know, I've seen some depressing smaller towns in the UK, but the thing about it is, even if you live in a boring ass town there and with nothing to do, you're still pretty connected there by trains, and you're not that far from other countries, and you can just go to other countries pretty easily there. And you're not far from London, you're not far from all these major European places, so it's not as isolating, okay, like living in the middle of bumfuck, you know, US, in the middle of the country, in the middle of, you know, fields, in the middle of nowhere. It is not like that. It's not the same. It's not the same. Like like isolation, like isolation in the US is like totally different. It's a totally different beast. It really feels like it compared to like Europe or somewhere. It's a totally different beast. It really is, because there are just so many areas here with just, there's just like nobody, like no people. Um it's scary. It's scary when you get out in the boonies when there's like no people and there's like one gas station and and 2 saloons, and it's just really scary. So, but yeah, I don't know. I can't do it. Like I did, like I feel like especially like once you live in a city like New York City, everywhere else just kind of looks like lame. Like it looks, everywhere else you live after that looks lame and boring, and like there's nothing going on. Like when you, after you live in a 24/7 city, like it's so hard to get used to any other place. It really is. Um, Everywhere else just seems boring in comparison. But yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, but yeah, my British side of my family, I remember when I used to have like a thicker kind of like Midwestern accent, they would like make fun of my accent and the way I talk and stuff, and I would make fun of them too. I would definitely make fun of them too. Um, but like the thing about the UK is like depending on where you're from, like you could be from like you could be from like Yorkshire or Cambridge, and you'll sound more sophisticated if you're from like Cambridge or London, or like they rate you based on your accent in the UK, which I think is really messed up, because I would tell people when I was working there that like, yes, I'm British, and they don't believe you because you don't have an accent. They just call you the American, or they call you the Yank. They call you the Yankee. And I would just get so pissed off because the people in my office would just like look at you suspiciously, and I was like, yeah, I'm British. And I could show them my British, you know, citizenship and my passport, and they don't believe you because again, you don't have an accent. I became a British citizen through naturalization because, like I said, my dad's from there. Half my family is from there, like there. So I am British basically. And when I was there working there on a contract for a year, people just don't believe it. They're like, "You're not British because you don't have an accent." And I developed a little bit of an accent when I was there, but I didn't. I lost it when I left. But it's just, I don't know. The UK is just very strange. I thought it was strange that they like rate you and look down on you if you don't have a certain accent, if you're not from a certain part of the UK or the British upper class or whatever, the royal class. I don't know. There's just, things are completely different there, because it's like based on the royal family, things are, and like your I don't know. It's very strange. It's just completely different from how we view things here and treat people, and I don't know. I just feel like maybe we're not as like classist as like the UK, where they like classify you based on like very specific criteria. It's very strange. The British are, yeah. When I was working with them, they will give you like the stiff upper lip. They will not, definitely nowhere near as friendly as Americans. Definitely not anywhere near as friendly. No, not at all. Uh, so I don't know. But yeah, that was interesting too, and just figuring out like that the UK was like also like not for me, just because it just wasn't. I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work out, and I just left. It just wasn't. Did I like being close to like all these places you can go and get away from for like a lot, like a weekend? Did I like having more time off work than I do here in the US? Did I like having access to the NHS? Sure, yeah, but at the same time, um, there was a lot that I missed about the US too. So I don't know. Like it was just hard making that adjustment culturally, um, to the UK, but there were perks there definitely, like get the amount of time they get off compared to us. What do we get? Like 2 weeks off? Barely that, like 10 days off a year. We hardly get any time off work here to travel and to do other stuff, so that's kind of depressing, um but yeah, a lot of people would just get a lot of time off there. And I remember like they would like tell people in the office like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be gone for 3 months." And like, what? 3 months? Wouldn't you like lose your job? And they're like, "No, no, no, I'm just gonna be gone on holiday for 3 months." And I'm like, on holiday for 3 months? Like if you told that to someone in the US, like you would be replaced. Like you would have already lost your job. Like you basically can't be out of work technically, I don't feel like, for more than like 2-3 weeks here, because it's very hard to keep your job here, because they'll just find someone else. Like if you're gonna be gone that long, like they'll just replace you here. Whereas there, it's like you can have job security and be in the UK and be gone for like 3 months and nobody bats an eye. It's very strange. The work culture is different. Um, but yeah, like I said, they'll never believe you. They'll never believe you're British if you don't have an accent. They won't. They won't. You could show them all the proof in the world to be like, you're a freaking Yank. And like that's what my family would call me over there. It's like so rude. They just like insult you all the time and make fun of you basically for being American. Oh, those are the days we could like make fun of each other and talk smack about each other, being so different. Uh, um, but I kind of feel like, based on, I don't know, what my family is like, and it's just the people I met in the UK, I don't think a lot of them would, some of them maybe would, but like I feel like the US could be like hard to adapt to also, like if you didn't grow up here, because it's just hard to like adapt here. It just is. Like a lot of people look at, like from outside the country, they look at it like it's like a war zone, because like I mean in some places it kind of is like one, with like the allowance of guns almost everywhere, and the shootings that go on all the time, and all this danger you can encounter here compared to a lot of other countries. Sure, yeah, I mean it's absolutely reality we have to live with here, because you have to know that you have to go walk around every day in the US with the knowledge that you could be anywhere. You could be at Walmart, you could be at the church, you could be anywhere, and somebody could just walk in and start shooting up the place. That's the reality we live in the US, and it's very real. So if you do like I just feel like it would be hard, like I don't know, for outsiders like to adapt to, because it's just I just feel like it would. They would just consider it, like I said, like almost like a war zone. Like You know, my family in the UK would call it uncivilized. I mean, but there's things I could say about the UK where I think things about that place are uncivilized, but we're not gonna go there, are we? I don't know. um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just very, very strange when you compare them, um, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about Wyoming and say there's a lot to see in the West. Not the West Coast, but the West. And not so much the Midwest. I'm talking about the West. um, there's a lot, and it's not talked about a lot. A lot of the Western states are not really mentioned a lot. So it'll be interesting.